little bit more practice with exponents. The first one here, um, the 2, the x, and the 3 are all going to stay in the numerator. This y to the third is going to have to go to the denominator. Now just multiply the 2 times 3, so we end up with 6x in the numerator and y to the third in the denominator. Here we can multiply 2 times 3, which is 6. There's 1x, and there ends up being 3y's. Here we got a 4 times a 2 times a 4. So 4 times 2 is 8, times 4 is 32. Now let's take a look. There are 2 m's. There's 4 m's. So 6 total m's. Then I have 2 minus 4 would end up with n to the negative 2. So now just go ahead and this n to the negative 2 indicates that needs to go into the denominator. So there's what your final answer is for 3. We have a 3, so we'll put that first. A to the fourth, and then negative 2 plus 4 would be a positive 2. So we've just gotten rid of all the negative exponents for number 4. Number 5, multiply 4 times 3 is 12. So there's 8 x's and 4 total y's. No negative exponents, so we're done. 4 times 4 is 16. You have negative 3 and negative 2, which would be negative 5. I'm going to have 3 n's here, 3 n's here, so that's a grand total of 6 n's. Let's get rid of this negative n to the negative fifth. So that'd be 16, and n to the sixth stay in the numerator. N to the fifth now is in the denominator. Here, the only thing I need to worry about right now is let's get that n squared into the denominator, or into the fourth. And now all of a sudden I have 2 m's in the numerator, 1 m in the denominator, which means if I were to cancel those, I'd have 1 left in the numerator, none left in the denominator, which would leave me with m over 3n to the fourth power. Here, let's take care of all these negative exponents. So this u to the third is going to go down into the denominator. So I'm going to leave everything that has a positive exponent. So I'm going to end up with another u to the third. That v to the third needs to go to the denominator. That v to the fourth is coming up. Now this u stayed put. That's where that one's coming from. Now let's start combining what we can. So we got 2v to the fourth. There are now 4 u's and 4 u's and 3 v's. 2 over 2, those will actually cancel. There are 4 v's in the top, 3 in the bottom, which means if I were to cancel, I'd be left with 1 v in the top and 4 u's in the bottom. So there's your final answer, v over u to the fourth. Number 4, here we don't have to worry about moving anything before we start simplifying, but those 4's will cancel. And then 4 x's in the top, 4 x's in the bottom. All that would cancel and leave me with just y in the numerator. Here, the 2, the 3, the x to the third, the yx squared, all that stays put, but I need to move this y to the negative first into the bottom. So we end up with 2x to the third. There are now 2 y's in the bottom and 2 x's. I've got x's in both the bottom and top, so let's start simplifying. That would, if everything canceled, I'd end up with 1 in the top, none in the bottom, but the 3 and the y squared would still be in the denominator. To the back, I need to move this x to the third into the denominator, so 3y to the fourth stays in the numerator, end up with x to the third and x to the fourth. So put all those x's together, end up with 7 x's in the denominator. This x to the fourth needs to go to the denominator, so the 4 stays up top. The x to the fourth goes to the bottom. Now start combining what we can. We actually end up with 5 x's in the denominator. X to the third will just be x to the ninth. Excuse me. This will be 2 to the negative third, and then negative 3 times negative 4 is positive 12. That 2 is taken to a negative exponent, so we end up having to move it to the bottom. So 2 to the third. Actually, 2 to the third is a number you guys can go find, and that's 8 if you type it into the calculator. All right. 15, we'll keep kind of playing around with this. Remember, everything gets that third power, so that ends up with 2 to the third times r to the negative 6th. So r to the 6th needs to now be in the denominator. 2 to the 3rd is 8 over r to the 6th. Here we have 3 to the negative 4th, x to the negative 8th, which really means everything's going to the denominator. So we're left with a 1 on the top, 3 to the 4th, x to the 8th, which will end up being 1 over, again, 3 to the 4th equals 81. So we end up with 1 over 81 x to the 8th. Distribute that 4, so we end up with 3 to the 4th, r to the 16th, and again 3 to the 4th, 81. Here we'd end up with negative 2 times negative 4 is 8, so into the 8th. Here we'd end up with 3 to the 0, into the 0, when I distribute that, 0. 3 to the 0 is 1, into the 0 is 1, remember, so that would give me a grand total of 1. Distribute that 3, we'd end up with 3 to the 3rd, x to the 0, which is 3 to the 3rd is 3 times 3 times 3, which is 27, times x to the 0, which is 1, and that's 27.